Sensory or spinal ganglia, also called dorsal root ganglia, are important components of the peripheral nervous system. Unfortunately, this image needs to be rotated about 45 degrees to the left so you can view the structures more easily. So just tilt your head for this bit, please. This main mass of tissue is the spinal cord, with its telltale, although very pale, butterfly-shaped grey matter at the centre. Ignore the histological structure of the spinal cord for the present, as I'll return to it in the next lecture series on the central nervous system. This extension is where the cutting blade has sectioned the dorsal and ventral nerve roots that emerge from the spinal cord and will unite to form a spinal or peripheral nerve. The dorsal root projects out as far as the dorsal root ganglion, which is this region here. Then the roots unite and form a spinal nerve. Of course, this peripheral nerve will extend much further, but it's run out of the plane of section distal to the ganglion in this section. So what I have described in the earlier topics in this lecture series was the histology of a typical peripheral nerve at this level or further distally in the limbs. I want to now examine this spinal or dorsal root ganglion. For each spinal nerve emerging from each vertebral segment, there is a single dorsal root ganglion such as this one sectioned here. A ganglion, or ganglia plural, is the structure outside the central nervous system that houses neuron cell bodies. These ganglia contain the cell bodies of sensory neurons. Because their axons are very long, sensory neurons have large cell bodies. These have a finely granular distribution of Nissl substance, which is really granular endoplasmic reticulum. They have a large pale nucleus with a prominent nucleolus. The abundant small dark stained cells are satellite cells, and they form a sheath 1 cell deep around each ganglion cell body. The ganglion obviously has to have nerve fibres or axons running through it, going to and from the neuron cell bodies. These axons tend to clump together, and the cell bodies do likewise. Appreciate that the cell bodies of sensory neurons are the metabolic centres, maintaining the long processes of the sensory neurons. There are no synapses onto them. Therefore, the cell bodies can be closely packed together with little space between them, aside from the satellite cells. These neurons are unipolar or pseudo-bipolar, with only one process extending from the cell body. After a short distance, that process bifurcates, with one branch running out to the periphery, in the peripheral nerve, and the other into the spinal cord. The simple shape of these neurons allows the satellite cells to form a fairly regular single layer around each cell body. This image is an excellent example of a sympathetic chain ganglion. The most prominent cells are neurons with darker nuclei, distinct nucleoli, and granular Nissl bodies in the cytoplasm. These neuron cell bodies are smaller than those in most sensory ganglia. There are sparse numbers of satellite cells around the neuron cell body, and most of the axons in this ganglion are unmyelinated.